Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Mirjam Molenbeek. I'm a knitwear designer and teacher from the Netherlands. Today I would like to tell you everything about my newest design, which is called the Hopjes Socks. These are the socks, and today I am launching the knitting pattern of these socks. So I'd like to tell you everything about the socks, how they are, how I made them up, and why they are called the Hopjes Socks. Hopefully you have a nice cup of tea or something else to drink and you are sitting back and relaxing, or you are working on a knitting project, or maybe you are crocheting. Some people tell me they are doing their laundry while watching my videos, or maybe you are cooking or doing something else. Please let me know underneath the video what you are doing while watching my video. I always like to know what people are doing while watching my videos. The Hopjes Socks is a new knitting pattern which you can buy from today. You can buy it on Ravelry and on my website. My website is in Dutch, so if you are English, maybe it's easier to buy it through Ravelry, but if you don't use Ravelry, you can always go to my website and buy the pattern over there. If you need any help, you can always contact me on info@mirjammolenbeek, and you can contact me in English. English is not my main language. My main language is Dutch, which you can definitely hear, but I am always able to help you in English. So this is the new knitting pattern, which is called Hopjes Socks, and I made two versions, one with a hand-dyed yarn and one with a fabric yarn, which is called Durable Sock. And this is color 418, and it's called Caribbean Sea. So you can use a basic sock yarn, fingering weight sock yarn, to knit these socks. I've knit them from the top down. Actually all my patterns are top down until now anyway. All my sock patterns I love to start at the cuff and then use a Dutch or French heel flap and gusset, and I Kitchener stitch the round toe, and I used a baby cable. And actually I never used this stitch before. I was I think it was during the Christmas break that I was finding words. I was going through my yarns and yarn books. I was looking which yarns I would sell, or which I wanted to keep, and which books I wanted to keep or wanted to give away. And I was looking at one book. It was an old English knitting stitch dictionary, I think. Yeah, it was a stitch dictionary. And I saw the baby cable, and I never used it before. So I started knitting, because while I was going through my yarns, I also saw this pretty hand-dyed yarn. It is by Witzomer. She is a Dutch, hopefully you can see. She is a Dutch yarn dyer. And this is a colorway which is one of a kind, but the base is a merino sock. It's 75 superwash merino and 25% nylon. I saw and I got it was a one of a kind color, and she sent it me a few months ago. She asked me, do you want to have this skein of yarn, because I was looking at your vlogs and I saw you often wear this kind of color, and of course I said yes, because I love the color she made, but it's not for sale. It doesn't have a name or anything. It was a one of a kind, but she does have a web shop, which I will link down below. So I started to knit the baby cable, and I really loved it. I actually started with a 2x2 rib and then started the baby cable. You could also start at the cuff with the baby cable, which I also explain in the pattern. I didn't know about the baby cable, and I was using Google and I was looking through Ravelry if I could find this exact stitch. And I couldn't find it anywhere. Maybe one old blog post which wrote about it. But when I looked for baby cable, I only saw a lot of baby sweaters and yeah, cardigans which had a cable, but not this baby cable. It's actually a cable you can knit without using a cable needle, which I really love, because I love socks with cables, but I don't really like knitting them because it's very fiddly. If you are I am knitting my socks on a 2.0 millimeter needle. It's very fiddly, and if I use a cable needle while knitting the small socks, I don't know. I don't like it. I like the result, but I don't like knitting those. So when I saw I could use a cable without a cable needle, and also you can also of course knit cables without a cable needle by letting them hang loose. So you let your stitches off the needle in front or at the back of your needle, which is I don't advise it to beginner cable knitters. That's obviously a choice, but that's also not the case. I made a video because most of my patterns contain videos about the part you might not know. So if you are going to knit this sock, I'm guessing you already know how to knit a sock. I'm writing it for Magic Loop. But maybe you don't know how to knit the baby cable, and it was really I have a tag editor, so all my patterns are tag edited and also tested, and the tag editor as well as the test knitters were like, I don't know exactly how to write this stitch down. I think it's okay, but maybe you need the video to really understand it. Some test knitters were perfectly fine. They saw how I described how to knit the baby cable, but a lot of people were really pleased there was a tutorial involved. You can actually watch the tutorial here on YouTube. I will link it in this video, so that you can see if you find it easy enough to knit up the pattern, which you can find on Ravelry. Maybe it's good to say that until March 10th there's a 20% discount code which you can find in the pattern description on Ravelry, and of course I'll link everything beneath this video. So that's March 10th of 2025. Maybe you're watching this a lot later and then you can still buy the pattern, but you cannot use the 20% discount code anymore. So actually it all started with cleaning up my closet and going through my yarns and my yarn books, and that's when the idea came. And when I was knitting the socks and was looking for the baby cable and if it existed, and I also did an Instagram poll where I asked people, do you know the cable stitch or not? And I think about 70% didn't know about the stitch. And 10% didn't remember if they know the stitch, but very few people had already worked this stitch. So I thought maybe it's an older stitch, because some people were responding that they told me my mom used to or my grandma used to knit up that stitch. I remember. So maybe it's an older stitch. Yeah, which has been forgotten a bit, and I thought how nice to get that stitch into a pattern and get it back and make it famous again. So that's why I chose to bring out a pattern. Because, and maybe you're watching and you're thinking, well, I used the baby cable many times. I didn't do a big research. It were like 120 people who filled in the poll. So I didn't do any research worldwide with 30,000 knitters involved. So maybe it's an already famous stitch, but I couldn't find it, and lots of people didn't know it, so that's why I chose to write it up in a pattern. So yeah, maybe it's new for you too. Because this color wasn't available for sale, I chose to use for the pattern a fabric yarn which you can order if you want. It's a standard weight, fingering weight sock yarn. So it's Durable Sock. It's a Dutch yarn brand, but I know it's available in lots of more countries. I think it's a bit the same as the Jabol from Lang Yarns, which you could also use. But here you can see how beautiful the cable looks in a one-way color. The test knitters did use, there were a few test knitters who also used a hand-dyed yarn, and what worked the best is a very light hand-dyed yarn with a bit of speckles, but not too much. I think if it gets too dark, like this one, and too much color changes, I don't think you would see the pattern that good. Also, if you use a very dark blue or a dark gray or a black yarn with cables, it's, yeah, I think it's known that you don't see the cables that well as when you are using a bit lighter wool. So that's something to consider. Yeah, what I want to tell about the name. The Haagsche Hopjes is a candy from The Hague. The Haagsche is meaning from The Hague, and The Hague is the city where I live. And the Haagsche Hopjes was founded by a baron named Hopje, and he was drinking his coffee at night with a lot of sugar in it, and he put it on the stove and went to bed and forgot all about his bit of leftover coffee on the stove. So when he came down the next morning, the stove was cooled down, and also the coffee was, when the stove was hot, it was heated together with the sugar, and then it cooled down, and it became like a very hard, hard candy. It tasted like a candy for him, and this is the result. So you can see the coffee color, and it's with lots of sugar in it. He went to a local bakery, and together they made up a recipe for the Haagsche Hopje, and since then I think it started out as, because he was a baron, it became very familiar along kings and queens and other barons and people with a lot of money. The Hague is actually a city where since a few centuries the rich people came and settled down. We have a lot of embassies, and it's a very international city, and that's how it started. And the last few years you could just buy the candy in every supermarket where you came. But when until 2 years ago, I also ran a web shop, and this was the candy I sent with my orders. And people really like that because it's a very nice candy. You can buy it everywhere in the Netherlands, but it's really from The Hague. So when people received their packages, they were always sending me messages to thank me for the candy, and they were always telling me like, oh, I totally forgot about it, and it's so nice and it tastes so nice, so thank you so much. So I was known for sending the Haagsche Hopjes with my orders. While I was knitting on these socks and I was thinking about a name, the fabric that is now producing the Haagsche Hopjes, which is called Rademaker, they announced that they are not producing the Haagsche Hopje anymore. There weren't enough people who bought it. It became too expensive to make the candy, so the candies will not be made again, unfortunately. Many people were sending me the news. They were texting me or sending me a message through Instagram, and they were telling me, oh no, since you've quit your web shop, now they stop making the Haagsche Hopje because you don't buy them anymore, and now they stopped making the candy. Of course, that's not true, because I didn't buy, I didn't send that many orders, but it was so nice. People were instantly thinking about me while when they heard about the news that the fabric was closing down. So that was because I don't know if you can see, but the size of the Haagsche Hopje is a bit the same as the cable, because it's like a square, but a rounded square, and it does look a bit the same as the cable. And then I thought, yeah, well, then I have to call these socks the Haagsche Hopjes socks. And then I thought, okay, maybe it's too challenging for the international people to pronounce the word Haagse. The sch is a really a Dutch thing. I think during the Second World War we actually asked people on the street, well, we didn't because I didn't live at the time, but the story goes that there were people asking, because German does sound a bit the same as Dutch, so to check if someone was Dutch or German, they always asked, well, can you please pronounce the word Scheveningen? And Scheveningen is actually where I live. That is the beachy part of the Hague, but it has the really loud sch, which I think we can only pronounce in Dutch, and German people cannot pronounce it. So when they couldn't say Scheveningen, we actually knew they were German, which at that time was of course the enemy. So I thought maybe Haagsche Hopjes socks will become too difficult to pronounce, and that's why they are called the Hopjes Socks. So a bit of a Dutch culture, a bit of history, and I hope you like it. But of course I hope what's the word? I really hope you just like knitting the pattern and yeah, make your own version of it. There were test knitters who did the cuff and the heel in another color and used a light speckle for the baby cable. So everything is possible. Hope you like it, hope you like this video, hope you like me telling about my new sock patterns. I have a lot of patterns coming up, so hopefully I can make a video in English every time. And if you want to know more or you want to tell me something about where I live or what I do, please let me know your questions underneath this video, and maybe I can make a Q&A video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget that the pattern discount for 20% off is available until March 10th of 2025, and you can find it on Ravelry. I hope you will have lots and lots of fun by knitting the Haagsche Hopjes socks. No, the Hopjes socks, sorry, I won't make it too difficult for you. I hope you like knitting the Hopjes socks. I hope you like this video, and I love to see you in another video soon. Bye!